Welcome everyone to this week's video. Today we are on Herp Monday number 17 and we have a good one for you today. Today we are going to be talking about one of the most adorable little salamanders that you could possibly imagine. Personally, I've never caught this, but it'd be a nice one to have on your catch list. Today we are talking about the Yonahlossee salamander. So once again, Yonahlossee salamander. Scientific name for this is Plethodon yonahlossee. The family that this is part of is actually Plethodontidae. Plethodontidae is actually the family of lungless salamanders. So we'll get into that in a little bit. Plethodon is also known as woodland salamanders or as slimy salamanders. I've heard slimy salamanders a lot more often than woodland salamanders, but both of those names are pretty good. These things are definitely pretty darn slimy. They are native to the southern Appalachian Mountains, so I believe you can think like Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina, things like that. These are going to be in those mountainous ranges up in the forests on them. They're all going to be around that southern Appalachian range. Something to note about these salamanders is that these are very large. Their size doesn't seem like they're large, but they are probably the largest member of the family in North America. And as with other salamanders, they are the females are actually going to be larger than males, and we've discussed that a lot of times in terms of reptiles and amphibians. Usually females are larger than males because the larger you are, the more eggs you can produce. So these will grow somewhere between 11 and 22 centimeters long, which is about 4.5 to 7 inches. Again, that's not massive, but salamanders are usually pretty small organisms, so these are definitely one of your bigger ones, especially of these sort of terrestrial salamanders. As you can tell from the pictures, they have a really distinctive rust colored dorsum, so along the back. It's very obvious on this picture. And what are we talking about? Well, we're talking about this line of rust right here. And apparently that's very, very distinctive. As you can see also in the pictures, they have sort of a black sort of base color with gray blotches down the sides, a little bit on the heads, and a little bit down the tail. So, but also something else to know that is distinctive is that the back of their head, or the dorsal part of their head, is all black. So apparently the rust color, they might have some rust blotches up in there, but it's going to be a very dark back. They have really big eyes, and we'll get into reasonings for those eyes in just a little bit. But you can tell that their eyes are kind of bugging out of their head, is what it looks like anyway. Obviously, these are lungless, so they have to be in sort of your wetter environments, stay very moist, because they're going to get a lot of their oxygen through their skin. So these are definitely not marathon runners, I would say. You kind of need lungs to do things like that. Something that's interesting about these salamanders, and is true of most of the family Plethodontidae, is these are actually direct developers, meaning that there is no larval stage. So a lot of salamanders in the world, when they lay an egg and the egg hatches, there's an intermediate sort of larval stage. They usually have gill fringes. They're almost always fully aquatic. These basically, when they hatch from the eggs, they're just little tiny adult salamanders. That's not entirely true. There's some other morphological changes that go through it. Apparently, young are much more spotted. The rust is much more blotchy around. It's not necessarily this one distinctive stripe, but it's definitely important to note. As we said, these live usually in deciduous forests up on the mountainsides, and they're found in damp, shaded areas around wooded hillsides and ravines. So think where they're going to be close to water, but not necessarily in the water, but they're going to be able to stay very moist in the areas that these live in. During the day, they're going to live under rotting logs and rocks as well. Going to be under rocks, and they're going to be in burrows as well. It's a little unclear whether they burrow themselves or whether or not they are just using old burrows. But it is important to note that these things are very fast. If you are looking for these and you flip over a rock and a log and you see one, they're going to be diving down into the ground very, very quick. They're going to find a hiding spot, and they're really hard to catch. Their slime helps with that. Please, if you are catching salamanders, make sure your hands are always wet. Don't handle them with dry hands. It's a good way to give them a sort of infection. Now, there is very little known about their reproduction. We know they reproduce terrestrially, and the eggs are deposited in underground cavities, and it's assumed that females will guard the eggs until they hatch. That seems to be the general scheme of what most of plethodons do, but it's not really clear about what these do. They're very secretive, but it is known that these do eat small insects or invertebrates. So they're going to eat mites, spiders, millipedes, centipedes, earthworms. Think of all the little bugs and creepy crawlies that you would find underneath a rotting log, and these things are going to eat them. And that's where those eyes come into play. Usually when things have these eyes, they are not only are they depending on sight rather than smell to search for their prey, they're also going to be relatively active in looking for that prey. These are nocturnal, so that they're going to need all that light that they can possibly get. Now, it is in laboratories, it has been shown that these do have aggressive defense of their territories. So they will protect their area that they call excuse me, that they call their home. So it can be underneath a reasonable assumption that they are also going to protect their little home range in the wild as well. These are not in any sort of danger right now. It's not assumed that they are. As terms of whether they're endangered or their population is declining, they are least concerned right now because apparently where they are found, they are usually very numerous. You can find these a lot. However, these could be in future trouble because of the current rate of deforestation and urban sprawl that is happening in these sort of rural areas along the Appalachian Mountains. So it is definitely something to keep an eye on and could possibly get in trouble down the road once their home ranges and territories are kind of encroached upon. Now, sort of the interesting fact that I want to end this video on, and this is true of quite a few salamanders, but these salamanders will produce a secretion or a mucus layer from its tail that is noxious to birds and other mammals. So as many of you know, lizards and salamanders, they'll, if you pull on their tail, it'll break off. And that's to kind of give a couple of different ways. Some lizards do it because they're like, look, you got my tail, eat that, and I'm gonna run away so I survive and you get a little prize. But these produce a little toxic secretion that it's completely noxious to birds and mammals, so that basically that lizard gets away, or the salamander gets away, and it's like it makes the animal that ate the tail really sick. I don't know if it kills them or if it just makes them very sick. But basically it's saying, hey, you got me, but don't eat another one like me because it'll make you sick. And then obviously they'll grow their tail back over a prolonged period of time. But thank you guys so much again. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you again. If I don't, Please be safe. Have a great day. I hope you are enjoying your time in these videos. I know that I am. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. If you do, I would really appreciate it. Sorry that this one is a little shorter, but there's not a whole lot known about these little guys. But that's going to happen sometimes. But once again, thank you guys so much again. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your loved ones. And